Hi guys, I couldn't think of a way of showing you how to wire the entire unit without taking 3 hours of video and then having to speed up the video just to show you something really quick. Just fly by all the wires and not really see any details. So instead I'm just gonna show you different versions of what I did at different stages, just so you can get an idea of uh, what I go through when I'm gonna wire a PCB board, and then I'll show you the final wiring at the end. But before we do that, let me just make a correction. Uh, on one of the videos at the beginning, I had said that um, this connection here needed to go to um, the drain of the IGBT, and it doesn't. The bottom it does, but this one doesn't. This one is to go to 12 volts. So if you have that connection, make the correction, or you're gonna have difficulties getting it to work. Okay, so this is my starting uh, layout pretty much. You can see on the right I have my schematic the way I had it before, the way I showed you guys on one of the previous videos. And then on the left I have my board, which is just that blank or dark square, and then on the left of it I have all the components without any wiring, so everything is just bunched together. So what you need to do is you need to move all of those components to the board itself, arrange them in the best way possible, and then wire them. And the way I go about wiring these units, I I like to first group them together the way I have them here on the layout or on the schematic. I wanted to resemble that as close as possible, so you can see what I have on the right. Everything's grouped together. It's on little unit, I guess. And then on the left I have the same thing, similar. So you can see that those are my components. The two groups at the bottom, like this group here, is this one on the right here. That one is the same as this one here. Why does it? Okay. So those two are the same as the IGBT with all the driving and sensing components. And then I have one to the left of that one, which is the one at the top here on the right. And then in the middle I have my processor with the components needed for that processor to function. On the left, however, I have more components, and that's because I have the components for the headers, the filters. I have them closer to the processor, which is where they should be. They should be as close to the processor as possible. So, obviously there's not as close as they could be, but that's how they're gonna be. We don't need that much. And then we have, the Bluetooth unit, just like here, Bluetooth, and then the components, resistors, LEDs, capacitors. Same thing here, we have resistors, the whole thing. We have the regulator, 5-volt regulator, which is this right here. You can see we have the regulator itself. We have a capacitor, diode, capacitor, resistor, LED. And I have some of the initial wiring, mostly just some component, some of the signal wiring. None of the power or ground has been wired yet in this version of it. So again, I try to have my board resemble my layout on the schematic, so it's a lot easier to wire if I have it that way, and I can move it around a lot easier. And as I switch back and forth, I don't get lost. Okay, so let's look at the final. This is just the same as the previous one, so no, actually it's not, so let me open this up. So on this one you can see that once you have a group together, then you can start rearranging the groups, get them closer together to their final position. As you can see in this one here, this is one of the IGBTs, and all these components, they was rotated to the right, now is rotating counterclockwise to align better with the processor and the wires that go to it. So once you have everything grouped together, then you can see how it's gonna fit better, and you can rearrange it the best way you think is gonna work for you. So this is what I have. This is as close to the final one, I think. I don't think I did major changes on the next version, but you can see the components are closer together. They're on their final spot. It has more wiring now. Again, all the signals to the processor and the headers, none of the power and ground yet. And then on the final one, let me see, here we go. So this is the final version of it. This is fully wired. It's ready to be printed and transfer, and anything else needs to be done to make it a functional board. So you can see the size of it came out to be 2.25 inches by 2 inches, which is it's a small unit. It's actually pretty good for a motorcycle. It's a very small unit. So again, once you wire everything, you want to keep all your wires at the top as much as possible, and only the power and ground should go through the bottom. Actually, only the ground should go through the bottom, unless you don't have a choice and start having some of the power wires going through the bottom. But if you do that, you end up cutting up your ground plane into multiple sections, and you don't want to do that. So I tried my best not to do that, and unfortunately I had to bring some of the power through the bottom, and one of the signals, that reset signal, through the bottom. But overall the ground plane is pretty good. It's large, doesn't have a lot of cutoffs. It's just one big ground plane ready to go. So there's the unit. I'm gonna show you the top so you guys can take a good look at it. That's the top part, how everything's wired together. Those are the that's what I forgot. I didn't change the value sizes and arrange them correctly, so you're gonna have to figure that out. Alright, so there's the top, there is the bottom, and here is the top and the bottom together, and that's how it should look. Alright, so if you have a different Bluetooth unit, you are going to have to change this connection here, but everything else, as long as you try to get the same components, this will work, guarantee. Alright, so that's my layout, and lastly, let me show you the final version of this so you can have a good look at it. The two sensing units are identical, so I'm going to show you one. There it is, the right side here. This is the driver side of it, and this is the sensing side of it. Okay, this is the regulator, power connector. This is the shifter connector. It requires 3 pins, one for power, one for signal, and ground. We have the gear positioning system. That one only requires 2, power and ground, actually signal and ground. We have the throttle, ground and signal as well. You can see that it has a filter like all the headers. We have the rev. This is for revving the engine. The filter is not needed, it's just there in case that you want to use this as a sensing header instead of driver. So if it's a driver, you can bypass the 1K and just put a straight line on it, or a jumper. We have the header, the programming header, and at the bottom we have the 3-volt regulator. We have the crystal, components for the crystal, and I guess for this one it would make more sense if I show you this part here. Let me remove the bottom. So that's my processor. This is my crystal. You can see it's very close to the processor. Here is my resistor and my capacitors flanking the transistor, I mean the crystal itself. And if we go to the top here, we have the 3-volt regulator, or 3.3. We have a capacitor. This is the Bluetooth. That's Bluetooth, resistor, LED, capacitor. This is the 5-volt regulator. I'll show you the whole thing, minus the bottom. So we have the diode, the regulator, capacitor, LED, and the resistor. Let's go to one of the units. Let's do this one here. Yeah. And that would be the bottom one. So here we have, let's start with this resistor here. This is the one going back to the processor for driving. This is your 10K going to 5 volts. Your 10K, I'm sorry, RK to 5 volts, 10K to 12 volts. The transistor for driving the IGBT as a connector, 10K sensing resistor, 5-volt Zener diode, 0.033 microfarad capacitor, 3K resistor, 10K resistor, the transistor, 10K resistor to 5 volts. So you can see here's the 5-volt side of it, and then that's just the connection going to the processor. So that's one connection. This is the sensing connection. This is the driving connection. Same with this one. This is driving, sensing. And other than that, everything else I guess doesn't matter. So just this port. This is the unit for the shifter. We have the capacitor. You can see that those are close to the processor. So there's a capacitor, and this is the resistor here, or the filter. Alright, that's all I have. So there you have it. One final look at the whole layout. See, that's the whole layout. And then this is the entire layout. Top. Oh, let me get closer. There we go. Bottom. And both. Alright, enjoy.